Hello, hello again. We are back. We are with week 3 of our postage stamp quilt sew along. That's a mouthful. Anyway, this week we are going to be arranging our squares on the grid. And this is going to be a quick little video, but I do want to share a few little tips with you in case you're trying to do this and have never worked with this before. And even if you have, one of these things may be something that you haven't thought of before. And so let's get to it. This week we are arranging our squares, and last week you were supposed to cut them all. If you're behind, you can get caught up, but I want you to start arranging, and you may need to cut a few more specific ones to fill in here and there. That's totally up to you. Whatever you want to do. One thing that I'm finding helpful is to put it on my design wall. If you don't have one, you can put it on a flat surface. You can work on your table. If you're doing completely scrappy, it's not going to really matter as much. If you're trying to do a specific layout, it may be helpful to have multiple panels hanging next to each other or laying next to each other. The next tip is this grid is porous. So when you use your glue stick to help hold it in place until we get it pressed, which I'll show you some tricks with that next week. The glue will go through and get on whatever the surface is. I usually have a silicone sheet underneath it, a piece of paper, something that I don't care if the glue gets on it. On my design wall, I obviously don't want the glue on my felt. And so this is what I've come with for this time. I have a silicone sheet that I just pinned underneath it. These 2 pins are holding it up, and so it's underneath this, so that when I put a dab of glue, if it goes through, it's on that silicone sheet and I can literally just wipe it right off. Do have a few silicone sheets in stock if you do not have one. I think they're called in the system applique sheets. But if you need one, I would go ahead and get one ordered because you are absolutely going to need one before you press. So even if you don't use it for this step, you're going to have one for when you press, or you're going to get the glue all over your iron. Now, first things first, the bumpy side is your glue. There's a bumpy side and a smooth side on this grid. The smooth side is just the interfacing. The bumpy side, the bumps are actually the glue that's going to hold this on. That's the actual fusible part. So if you look up here, I don't know how well you can tell there, this is all backwards because it looks like, so basically you're putting this on the wrong side, what we would consider the wrong side. But it is actually the right side. Anytime you use any fusible, there's going to be a soft side or a smooth side and a bumpy side. The bumps are actually the adhesive. So what I have found works really well, I could lay this down and lay all my pieces out and then press them. As long as you don't move it, that's fine. If you're going to move it at all or work on it in stages, or you don't want things getting shifted or something like that, you're going to want a glue stick. This is 505. A lot of people know it as the basting spray, the spray adhesive. I use it as a basting spray. I love it. They've come out with a glue stick, and even at my last show, people didn't know that this existed. This is temporary until you press it. Once you press it, it becomes permanent. So we're going to be pressing this anyway. So this I like because it's a little bit bigger stick than your regular school glue. Either one will work. Make sure that they both dry clear. Make sure you allow them to dry completely and they are clear before you press them. I did find, especially with the glue stick, the school glue, that on another project that I pressed it too early and it had not changed color, had not gone clear yet, and you can still see it through. It's not super noticeable, and dark fabrics it won't matter, but it was on a cream solid, and if you look, you can still see it. So avoid that, let it dry completely, and then when you press it, I did notice that sometimes it turns purple when I first press it, but once it cools off, it goes back to clear. So if you're worried about it and you're using a lot of light colors, test it and see which works better for you. I do have these in stock, and the applique sheets as well, but these you could just buy anywhere. I got a pack of 30 of them on Amazon for like $12. So y'all know me, I'm not gonna push something on you that you don't need or won't use, or there's another option. So again, this is purple. It does dry clear. I do have the silicone sheet behind it because I didn't want it getting on here. And it does tend to sometimes go through. Mine are completely scrappy. So you can do yours however you want to do it. If you want to do more of a pattern, you're welcome to do that. See, I could do this here and then red and then another brown, whatever you want to do, however you want to lay it out, that's totally up to you. Mine is just completely scrappy. So I'm going to add a few more blocks on here. All you need is a dab. I kind of put it on here and twist just enough to see. Then I'm going to pick one of these. Now, your square is going to be, if you're using the 10 Sisters grid, your square is going to be a smidge, just a little bit smaller, 1/16 of an inch or so smaller than your printed square. They do that on purpose because when it's exactly 2 inches, they tend to butt up. And when you fold them and sew them, which we're going to do in a couple of weeks, they tend to overlap and they fold and they get bunched up. We don't want that. So they print them just a little bit larger, and it's not going to affect the outcome in the end. It just is going to help it make it easier for you. So you're just going to go through here, and I've just kind of, to make sure I had things spread out, this one here, I just have kind of been randomly putting things on so that I don't get too many reds together, too many whatever, because I want this to be completely scrappy. And again, I've organized all my squares in this handy dandy little box here. Here's another one that I have cut. Let's put this one right here. Again, this is totally whatever you want to do. If you're going for more of a pattern, you can certainly lay it out however you want to lay it out. Okay, I'm going to put my glue up. Now, some of the examples that I showed you had stars in them, and you can do that. There's just an extra step. In order to make anything like, I've done a pumpkin where the stem is half background color because I didn't want the stem to be the whole square. I only wanted it to be a little short stem on the pumpkin. And so the top was background color. The bottom was the actual stem. You're going to pre-sew that. And so the same thing with half square triangles. Because when we go through here, we're going to stitch this seam and this seam. We're not going to stitch across here. So these two would not be joined. So you need to pre-sew these together. So you're going to make your half square triangle. And this one's made for a 2.5 inch. So I trimmed it down so that this is a 2-inch grid. It'll finish at 1.5 inches. But it's totally up to you. So now this is already sewn together. So now I'm going to stick it in here, and I'm not going to glue it because this is not staying here. But this is how you're going to make your half square triangles to make your stars. You want to pre-make anything. You can put any combination you want in these squares, but it needs to be pre-sewn and cut to the right size before you put it on here. So if I wanted to do something like, this here, where they're two different, if I wanted to do something like this, I can. I just need to pre-sew this and then cut it to the 2 inches and put it on here. Does that make sense? If it doesn't make sense, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know, and I'll try to explain it a little bit differently. But when you put it on your grid, it needs to be the size of your grid. Already all sewn together. If I wanted to be ambitious, I could make this 5 or 6 different pieces, little scrappy, teeny tiny pieces, and then cut it to size and put it on here. It does not matter. But just keep in mind when we sew things, when we get ready to sew these, we're going to sew down this line. We're going to sew on the lines. So anything inside of those lines needs to be pre-sewn. Okay? So your homework for this week is to glue down all of your squares, however you want to do it. And send me some pictures. I want to see how it's going. Post, if you're on one of the platforms where you can post in the comments on the pictures, go ahead and do that. You can send them to me through the messenger on whatever platform you're on, whatever the kind of stuff. Let me know if I have permission to share that, because I want to share your progress. Part of the fun of doing these is seeing how everybody's different projects come out. So that's inspiring to me, because I wrote a quilt pattern several years ago. It's a beginner's quilt, and I have a friend who takes that, puts her own twist on it, and does something completely cool with it and uses her scraps. So, and I would have never thought to do that. So, let's inspire each other. Comment below what you're doing, what your plans are, all that kind of stuff. And I will see you all again next week. Next week, I am going to be getting ready for Quilt Market, but I still plan on being here. Still plan on posting the video. Next week, I'll give you a few tips on actually pressing these together. I'm breaking it down into small little bites so it's not overwhelming. Even if you're making a huge one, it's not as overwhelming. So that's why I'm doing it one little step at a time. Okay. So if you want to kind of wait till close to the end, watch all of them, that's totally fine. If you've used this before and you know how to use it and you want to work ahead, that's totally up to you too. The goal of this is to get y'all inspired and get myself inspired to actually do something new and exciting. So I hope y'all have a great week, and I will see you back next Tuesday. Bye.